March 20, 2000, Randy Spliff, tape 2.
Yeah, Ken has a real knack for finding songs and other idioms that work for a particular voice in bluegrass, or I think he probably does it with the other genres that Rounder records too. I'm just not as familiar with them. It doesn't always work, I gotta say, but one that leaps to mind is a Steve Young song called "Old Memories Mean Nothing to Me." I know Del McCurry's done it. It was on the Hazel Dickens, Jimmy Hawker, Carol Elizabeth Jones project, and I think maybe Hazel brought that to the project. I don't know who thought about Del recording the song, but it works very well.
Del
McCurry. Del McCurry recorded it some years ago.
Okay.
And it's a great bluegrass ballad. And Steve Young's a great songwriter. Came off his one, I think, major label release on RCA called Renegade Picker. Ken knows about these people and these songs, and he's always looking for others. So, to the extent that there is a rounder sound, and I don't know if you can say there is, a sound that would encompass, Allison Krauss, Tony Trishkin, Vern Williams, and the Whitsteins, and he appreciates all those people and knows them. I gotta say that in the Atlantic sound, the Stax Bolt sound, etc., are a reflection to some extent of the producers, not nearly as eclectic as the rounder sound, but then, I'm not sure Ken was ever aiming to have radio or jukebox hits, although I'm sure he wouldn't mind. That is something that he can do. And when he hears something that he really likes, he'll go to great lengths to bring that sound into the studio. And we're talking about Longview. That would never have happened. Ken heard them singing. The members of Longview at some festival somewhere. I don't know the details, and there is no way those guys would have ended up in the studio together.
Why is that?
Well, they're so different, and in a couple of cases, really difficult people to deal with. Joe Mullins, the banjo player, is the son of a great musician in Southern Ohio named Moon Mullins, who had a great band called Traditional Grass. Moon worked with the Stanleys for a while, but he's a notorious redneck, racist, etc., and so's Joe. I don't want this to be for attribution,
okay.
But it's nigger this, and I'm sure it's. I've talked to him on the phone, and he was trying to book the Fairfield 4 because he's a businessman. They got a string of radio stations, and they're both DJs. I've had friends in Dayton tell me that Red Allen and Moon Mullins, every time they had him on the air, they ended up getting called in on the carpet. This was a public station in Dayton because they'd say something about niggers or queers. But Joe is one of the great high tenor singers in the whole world, and hearing him and James and Don Rigsby sing together is inspiring. And those records are destined to be classics.
Really?
I don't know how well they sell, but the first one, especially, they did this song that's old. It was a song of the year it came out at the IBMA, called "Lonesome Old Home." I'd never heard it before. I don't know if Ken dug it up or what, but it's a Stanley Brothers style song, but it's not from their repertoire. It's just incredible. Bound to be a standard in the repertoire. It's very difficult for the band to tour, even on the rare occasions that they do, because they're all so cantankerous. They keep trying to kick James off the bus, and Ken keeps getting him back on. To his
Just because he's
credit.
difficult?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's really greedy, and he's also stupid, which makes it. Again, none of this is for attribution. I have to work with these guys. But you know, that's the truth of the matter. So Ken's bucking pretty heavy odds sometimes in creating this art. And
where's the sound fit into the continuum of bluegrass music from old stuff to
Longview?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the old stuff. It's the Stanley Brothers,
Uh-huh.
basically, which is, you know, there are two camps,
Go ahead.
even among traditionalists, and that's the Monroe style, the Monroe Flat and Scruggs style, and the Stanley Brothers. Those are the two canons from whence all traditional those sounds.
How would you
come.
capsulize the difference?
Well, I'll just tell you what Chris told me when she asked people when we moved to Nashville and she jammed a lot. The appreciation for the Stanley Brothers sound in California was pretty heavy duty, and she said, you know, we jam a lot on Stanley Brothers. You guys seem to jam on the Monroe Flat and Scruggs tunes more and don't do the old Stanley Brothers stuff. And people that she knew in Nashville said, well, you know, when we were growing up, they were kind of thought of as hillbillies. You know, they were never mainstream, whereas Monroe and Flat and Scruggs were. Although the Stanley Brothers were on major labels for short periods of time, Monroe, Flat and Scruggs were country stars, and the Stanleys were. That was a sound that a lot of people are kind of ashamed of, I think. So that's, you know, I mean, that's probably as well as I can put that.
How the Fred Hoppers come to Rounder, if you know?
Boy, I wish I did know. I saw him. I guess I saw him at the Focal Alliance in Toronto. They were really on the make. They were at the IBMA, they were at the Focal Alliance for a couple years running, just jamming, you know, from you know, all day and all night, and created just enormous excitement. Just the fierceness of their playing, and the fact that they move around a lot when they play and stuff. People really dug the exuberance and the joie de vivre in the music. Where they don't normally see in bluegrass music, or if you do, it's just these people who equate noise and hoo-ha type approach to the old-time repertoire with entertainment value. But these guys are really good players. David and Frank. The fiddle player and banjo player are really the nexus of the group, are great, both of them, and they really love the music. And that they are as popular as they are, I can only attribute to their live shows. And it's on the records. It's on the records as well. But I think, well, they started playing, you know, multi-genre festivals fairly early on, and they went over really great. And they kind of, some people became the old-time band of choice, and I hope it stays that way.
Right.
So I'm their responsible agent.
What do their records sell? Do you know? You work with them?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea how well they sell. Been out of the record business for a while, and
I just thought you might need to know that, or might come to know that.
I'd love to know that.
As their agent.
I'd love to know that.
And do you know where they sell? I don't know if Ken knows where anybody sells either, frankly.
Oh yeah, they do. They got sound scan numbers
Uh-huh.
about, and the sound scan numbers are like 4 pages long.
Okay.
So he could get it for you for
Yeah.
sure. I think the next. I want to say this because I got to go to the bathroom again pretty soon. I don't know how much more I could talk about this anyway, but I think the next big thing on Rounder Bluegrass is going to be Rhonda Vincent.
Uh-huh.
I'm amazed that it's taken this long for her to reach the level of having a traditional bluegrass album on Rounder. People have known about her for ages. Insiders.
Uh-huh.
She's as good as there is. She's as, and early Allison was, you know, very, very consciously adopted her vocal style from Rhonda's records and live appearances, and Allison has been very gracious in saying that from the very beginning. Allison doesn't sing that forcefully anymore, but she certainly, that was probably her first major vocal influence, and the girl's got the goods. And she's really more showbiz oriented than most bluegrass acts. She grew up in the music. She grew up playing it. First recording was when she was like 3 years old or something. She's got the chops, and I'm glad she's on Rounder because she needs the exposure that will give her. Record's already going great guns, and it's only been out a few months.
They also seem to have a lot of things that don't sell very well, I guess. They do. As I'm talking to you, I'm realizing it more. The Whitsteins and Kate and Jody and the Freighthoppers, these things might not sell that much.
And those are kind of the hits too. If you look at some of the stuff that's no longer in print, you realize how much stuff they really do put out, and you know, they believed in it at one point anyway, obviously, or they wouldn't have put it out. What can I say? Some of my favorite records in every genre didn't sell well initially.
I think you lost you went away from your point before. You started to say if there was a rounder sound, it's due to, and I think you were saying Ken's eclecticism. I'm not sure that you ever got it out, and I'm not sure that that's an accurate representation of your thought process. If there's a rounder sound.
Well, maybe not a rounder sound so much as a rounder approach, and that he's very open to things that people maybe with better defined goals, purposes, or sound. Well, I mean, let's face it. What I said about the Johnson Mountain Boys and Bill Grant and Delia Bell was not a good thing. I didn't say that as praise. That is how, you know, for instance, the Chicago blues sound came to be, is that one producer in Chicago produced all the blues records for RCA and Columbia for one period. He used all the same players, and it was the same approach.
Right.
So to that extent, it's not a good thing. But I, with the exception, you know, of the Johnson Mountain Boys playing on all of Bill and Dia's records, which they had to do something because their own pickers and their own bands were just not professional quality, shouldn't have been on records. It may be, those records may represent Bill and Delia better than they ever were live. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? It depends on whether or not the record is a thing in itself, or if it's Aristotle's Poetics.
Right.
Art is an imitation of an act. Or in the case of discs, is it the art itself? Because, well, let's face it, I mean, Pink Floyd and Steely Dan obviously couldn't be duplicated on stage, so to a larger and larger extent, the disc is the art itself. I'm interested in hearing what the band sounded like live. Some bands are good live bands, some bands ain't. I guess that's true of all genres. Hard to say. I think the Rounders are conscious and Ken, consciously. And he said this to me recently. So some of these records are artifacts. That's what they are. They're a record of something that was. And that's pretty much all they are, because they're not commercial product. But they're conscious of preserving sounds that they know are going away, or recreating sounds that don't exist anymore, which to some extent is what Kate and Jody did.
Right.
It's what the Freight Hoppers do too,
Yeah.
to a large extent. I don't know. Some truth in every generalization, including this one. About the Rounder sound, I don't know. I mean, I don't think you can tell a Rounder record when you hear it on the radio. I don't think you can. But you could certainly tell a Stax Volt record, or you'd go, well, if it's not Stax Volt, it's somebody who listened to Stax Volt a lot. Because they really, as I said, they kind of encompass, Tony Trischka, Vern Williams, Alison Krauss. That's quite a wide spectrum.
Randy Biffs.
Yeah,